Hello future tech leaders, I'm Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A cloud foundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
Moving forward to accounting preferences. Now, once you have set all your enabled features, feature is something that would allow you to enable a certain functionality in NetSuite or disable a certain functionality in NetSuite. However, once you are done with that, the next thing that you can do is set your accounting preferences. Preferences, as the name says, are some defaults that you can set in your NetSuite account. Whenever you run a report, automatically the preferred settings would show up. These are certain preferences that you will set in your accounting preferences. And I'll just try to relate it as much as I can with your AR process that you're doing right now. That would give you, a more better understanding of the features. The navigation is set up. Accounting. Now you have to go in accounting. You go in accounting because it's related to accounting preferences. You go in accounting and scroll down over here and you have your accounting preferences. Click on that. And here you will see certain preferences. Like in the journal tab, you can see use account numbers. Have you created chart of account or GLL code in NetSuite before? Alright, do you see an account number before the description of that chart of account? I can see use account numbers and legal name. Also, I would be able to see all transactions in Constellation. Whenever you are working with chart of accounts, let me just open a chart of account. You see this account number. Account number and account description is something that is shown whenever you are entering a transaction in NetSuite. This account number is enabled because in my accounting preferences, I have selected use account numbers. If your client does not want account number, you just simply disable this. But again, it's a recommended practice or recommended approach from accounting perspective to always use account numbers. Let's say, if your client says, I don't want to use account numbers, you can educate them that this is basically a best practice to have your account number in your chart of accounts and maybe, convince them to use it. As a functional consultant, you are not just implementing NetSuite, but you are also suggesting them some best practices as well. This is one of the best practice to use account numbers with your chart of account. And this is where you can enable or disable it. If you want to use your cash basis reporting, NetSuite has this option where you could run your report by default on cash basis. You can just enable the cash basis reporting here. And whenever you run any report in NetSuite, any financial report, it would be on cash basis. You can do that as well. Aging report. This is one. Like if you are doing your AR aging report, how do you want to calculate the brackets or the aging? Is it based on the due date of the transaction or is it based on the transaction date? These are certain preferences that you're setting up over here. Again, preference is something that is going to show up by default. You can always change it as well. And the best part about it is that there is no gray out situation over here. You can always come up here and enable or disable it without the fear of enabling it and later unable to change it. This is just a preference. You can always change it later as well. Here are certain accounts receivable preferences. If you allow the parent customers to pay for their child customers, you can, check this box. Do you want to see only open transactions on your customer statements? Have you seen customer statements in NetSuite? The customer statements like applying the payment to the particular customer. No, just a statement that you send to your customer on monthly basis that these are your open transactions. That I could able to see. Correct. Here is the option. This is the comes under the agency part. Alright. But when you're sending out the customer statements, if you by default want to show all the open transactions, you just mark it over here and it will automatically show up on that statement. Just wanted to make you sure that you are aware of the preferences. And similarly, we also have certain preferences for your accounts payable. If you need to have any vendor credit limit warnings enabled in your NetSuite account, you enable this from here. If you want to auto apply your vendor prepayments on the vendor bills, you simply enable this and stuff like that. Again, anything can be changed here later. If you realize that you made a mistake by enabling a particular feature, you can just simply, uncheck this from your preferences. As simple as that. Again, help is always available in the Help Center. I would highly recommend you to go here and read each and everything. Click on the field headings and read it. Let's say you know what is the difference between voiding transactions using journal entries. Click on this and it's going to say check this box to create a reversing journal entry that voids the checks and transactions. Sometimes certain organizations prefer deleting a transaction when there is a mistake. You can again, tell them that this is not a recommended approach. You should always void a transaction to create a reversing journal. Again, part of the best practices and also let you know where to enable or disable this preference form. Any questions on this? Here, like as per due data system, will send the automatic reminder email to customer. Where would you be able to find this option here? Which option? Can you hear me? As per due date system, I can able to hear. What I'm asking that as per due date, system will send the automatic reminder emails to customers. Where could able to see this option under accounting preferences? Automatically. You cannot. There's no feature in NetSuite that would automatically send out emails to the customers. If I go in reports, and again, I'll be covering this in more detail in our site. But if I open this our aging report really quick, and if I go in my aging options, you see by default it's on due date. My aging is based on due date here. Now, this is because my accounting preference is that my aging should always be on due date whenever I run a report by default. Due date. This is what happens over here. I understand that the due date transaction date. No, I understand the due date. Like, what is the transaction date? Transaction date is the date on which you created this transaction. Let's say you created an invoice on 1st November and the terms that you give on that invoice is 30 days. The due date is going to be 30th November, but your transaction date is 1st of November. That is both a similar due date and transaction date. No, it cannot be. It cannot be same. Like, let me give you an example. Like, this is a business process scenario. When you sell on credit, you always, give some margin period to your customers that if you buy this thing from me, you can pay this in 15 days. 15 days is basically your due date. You created the transaction on 1st of November, but you are asking the customer to pay me on after 15 days. The due date is going to be after 15 days. Let's say 15th of November. Now, do you want to see your AR aging based on the transaction date or when the transaction is due to be paid? Usually it's, based on due date because that's where actual receivables is due, right? It's not due on 1st of November. It's due on 15th of November. You select due date to see your AR aging. Understood. That's the basic difference between transaction date and due date. Alright. Any questions on the accounting preferences side? Could this click on time and expenses? These time on expenses are all rotating. Let me just give you a time and expenses. Like, whenever you are recording times in your NetSuite account. As an employee, if you want to track your time against any projects or against any invoices bills, if you're in a software or service verticals, you might be entering time entries. Who is going to approve your time entry? Would the supervisor be emailed for any time entry? Creation and all that stuff is part of this. This is where you would be dealing with all that and approval. I got. And in the approval routing, what you essentially do is enable the transactions on which you need any approvals. Consider, let's say, purchase orders. If you want someone to enter purchase order and it should be approved by someone else, like the supervisor or somebody else, you would just come up in the approval routing and enable purchase orders. Now, purchase orders would have the ability to use that approval workflow on any transaction. If you need any approvals from the supervisor, you come up here and you enable and check that, like, say, for journal entries. If you want a journal entries to be approved by someone before they are posted, you check this box here. If you uncheck this, it means that there will be no journal entry approvals. Anyone who enters a general is directly going to be posted. Correct. Yeah. Correct. And how about these projects? Project is again, very small term here. But again, if your organization is doing project management within NetSuite, it's a separate module that has to be purchased. I don't think if we have this over here on our training account, but if the client has this project module, you will see some preferences and some defaults for your projects. It's related to the project management side of NetSuite, like while creating the project, right? Exactly. Everything related to the projects is going to be part of the project module. Order management is all related to your sales. order fulfillment, picking, packing, fulfillment related stuff, invoicing related stuff. Here you will see your typical ARR order management process. Items and transactions is all related to the items. Here you can set your default accounts. I'm going to go into this more detail when we go in our items and inventory side, but this is where you set your default accounts. And when you create a new item in NetSuite, automatically the GL accounts are defaulted from this page. As I said, that preferences is all about default settings. Here you set your default asset account, default cost of goods, sold account, default receivables account, and all the defaults. Again, you can always change that on the transaction level, but this is where you set your defaults. That's the whole idea of setting up the preferences. Got it? Got it. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.